Hello, my name is Stephen Donaldson-Ellison, and I'm here today to present to you the farmers of Pinoso, your future. In a small area in the province of Alicante, nestled in the Beatic mountain range between the Sierras de los Panzas and Carche and Sierra Salinas, you produce beautiful produce that is renowned throughout Spain: olives, almonds, and grapes for wine. The quality of the produce in the small valley is outstanding. However, for all the wonderful taste that I have grown to love here, I believe you would agree with me that your livelihood is under threat. But the threat is subtle. It is not in the form of large corporate organizations buying your land. Neither is it the small areas of your land sold to build houses and apartments. It is a slow and creeping degradation of your soils. These soils are a wonderful ecosystem and can withstand many problems. But the problems we face today have been ongoing for many years and are finally coming to a head. The loss of soil organic matter is the issue I am talking about. From the 1940s, synthetic fertilizers became the norm in providing nutrients to crops, as farmers moved away from the natural use of sowing brassicas and legumes on their fields, a practice which had been common since Roman times. When farmers turned away from using these natural fertilizers and so reduced the inputs of organic matter via plants and manure, they moved towards excessive tillage to keep the fields weed-free and use fertilizers to provide the nutrients. This coincided with the thought that a clean and tidy tilled field, i.e. no surface cover other than crops, constituted a healthy, nutritious land capable of producing crops. However, it is now widely acknowledged that tilling fields brings many negative after effects, such as soil disturbance, which leads to a decrease in the natural biodiversity, exposing nutrients encased in finer soils to the air, which also increases the possibility of soil erosion and also evaporation of moisture in these finer soils. And without soil organic matters, a vital part of the soil web is broken, essentially drastically reducing and in some cases obliterating bioavailable nutrients within the soil solution. The soils in this region are primarily a sandy clay. Whilst this clay traps in moisture and nutrients, it is also one of the most difficult to work with, as it turns thick and soggy in rain and sets like concrete under heat. This area is certainly semi-arid, with the winter temperatures ranging from 4 degrees Celsius at night and 20 degrees Celsius during the day in January, and 22 at night to 34 degrees Celsius during the day in August. We know the winters here are very mild and the summers are long and hot. Coupled with this, the Valencian region averages 44 precipitations a year, ranging from 1 in July to 6 in October. This means, in an average rainfall, you can expect anything from 9 millimeters in July to 74 millimeters in October. And due to the sparse amount of rain here, there are no major rivers, but mostly ramblas, or dry rivers, which fill in with water when torrential rains occur, mostly during the winter months. One such river is the Vinapolo, seen here. Soil organic matter is vital for the soils. Although it only constitutes 5% of healthy soils, it plays a role in soil tilth, water infiltration, and soil fertility, all due to the microbes that feed upon it and depend upon it for substance. As there is 25% of the world's insect population living within our soils, this is a very important task. The soil food web is essential for recycling nutrients and carbon locked up in plant residues or animal manure. A healthy soil with soil organic matter will be called a structured soil. Plant roots and other organisms especially need this structured soil because the spaces between the solid soil particles determine the availability of air and water. So when the soil is tilled and it forms a hard-packed surface hours later, not only is this potentially water repellent, but it also decreases the bioavailability of nutrients to roots. In the soil web, bacteria and fungi are the primary decomposers. They control the flow of carbon and nutrients through the decomposition of organic matter. The microfauna make up a small proportion of the total soil biomass, but they have a key role in the mineralization of nutrients through their feeding on bacteria and fungi. Mesofauna and macrofauna feeding releases nutrients and regulates pests and diseases. The decline of soil organic matters, as stated before, is also further exacerbated by drought in the region and salinization from increased use of irrigation, and also erosion via wind and particularly water during the periods of torrential rain in the early winter. And if the current issue is not addressed, you will see a greater need for irrigation on your lands. As soil organic matter declines year upon year, so too does the ability of the soil to retain moisture, and furthermore, as the soil organic matter declines, so too does the biodiversity in the soil, further reducing the bioavailability of nutrients in the soil solution, resulting in a hard-packed, lifeless soil as seen here with almond trees and vines. We do not know whether the situation of rainfall will improve, but currently Spain is in the grip of another crisis named desertification, the drying and formation of water-repellent surfaces. I believe then that we must be realistic and plan for the downward trend to continue. Therefore, water rates will continue to increase as they have been doing, putting more pressure on farmers. Combined with the rising temperatures means more money will need to be spent to keep your farms working at their current capacities. The other concern with increased use of irrigation is the residue of salt which is inherently common in irrigated soils. It takes very little salt to alter the delicate balance which these plants need to produce. Therefore, an increase in irrigation in the semi-arid environment could lead to more drastic measures being taken to reduce the salt concentration in the soils in the future. But for all this, I believe there is a very simple solution to these problems. A solution that will solve the expensive and time-consuming practices of tillage and fertilizing, that will increase water infiltration and provide natural nutrients to the soil in order to restore soil health by reintroducing the missing chain in the soil food web. I propose bringing soil organic matters to your soils by using cover crops, as were used before synthetic fertilizers became cheap and widely available. Now for these, the nutrient composition will not be affected largely by the change. As legumes have small nodules which fix nitrogen to the soil, there will be more than enough carbon and nitrogen for the plants to uptake from the soil. This has been tested and proven from studies conducted in similar semi-arid conditions in the United States. As mentioned before, the soil organic matters directly affect soil aggregates, as the microbes which feed on soil organic matters emit substances which alter the pockets of air within the soil solution. With more soil organic matters to the natural level of 5%, water infiltration will improve and the total capacity of water within the soil will increase. There is also the added benefit of reduced water erosion via runoff during the winter rains and reduced wind erosion during the hot summer months. Now, a clear concern from farmers moving into what could be considered organic farming is weed suppression. There are, however, certain types of plants with allelopathic properties which naturally suppress weeds, shown here with subclover in an almond orchard. Therefore, the constant need for tilling, disturbing the soil, especially in this area, is drastically reduced. There are different mixes of cover crops with different purposes. For example, if you want to improve soil health, provide forage for pollinators, or improve water retention, the mix will be different. However, most mixes contain the standard 2 different types of legumes, 2 different types of brassicas, and 1 species of grass. This provides a good variety for the soil, whilst also giving lots of nutrients and coverage. The first seeding should be undertaken in September or October before the first rains in order to avoid compaction from the tractors. This will also ensure flowering before the almond bloom, thus attracting more pollinators. For the first seeding, seed preparation may be necessary to optimize the seed-soil contact. This is usually undertaken with either very light discs, 1 to 2 inches, or a mulcher, 1 inch depth. Your orchards may have different soil conditions depending on previous management practices, such as where residues are placed, if berms are cleaned, and where the irrigation wetting zones are. Therefore, the placement of the cover crop is very important. A wider seeding, which overlaps both the irrigation wetting zone and is closer to the berms, has more potential to impact your orchard's soil health and address water infiltration problems. There are numerous ways to manage and terminate cover crops, using flail mowers, rollers, or even a mix with herbicides. However, from the current research, it seems best to terminate the crop in March to April with a mower, which will create the perfect mulch and vegetation cover for the summer. By providing this vegetation cover, the initial water usage will actually increase, which is why sowing the plants when the rains are frequent is essential in semi-arid conditions. However, the main benefit comes in spring and summer, when the crops have been cut back to provide a natural mulch for the soil. This mulch, whilst contributing to the biomass and food web of the soil, also increases the water holding capacity of the soil. So, in the dry seasons in the south of Spain, where every drop of rainfall is gathered, the ability of the soil to hold more water is essential. This has been tested in America, where they found a 20 to 30 degree Fahrenheit reduction from simply using straw. Now, I believe with these changes, we can offset the climatic conditions we find ourselves in. These changes are simple and have already been proven to work in other areas of the world, America being the notable example. However, as this will benefit the wider community due to the reduced need of irrigation on fields, resulting in more available water for residents, I believe the stakeholders involved in the proposal should then also include the local council and cooperatives. Grants and bursaries should be made available to farmers who wish to buy cover crops, which will in turn benefit both the farmers' fields and the local community. I hope you have enjoyed the presentation and have learned something to benefit your families and your livelihoods. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.